Alright, next up we got rashnagar206 playing as the Blue Nod against WaVeDasH playing as the Gold GDI in Tournament Desert. This should be interesting. 9-minute long game is pretty long. GDI tends to be grossly underfavored on this map, so we'll see how it plays out. We got Rash spawning on the top and WaVeDasH spawning on the bottom. Both players going with the insta-conyer deploy, not wasting any time. Opening with the power plant. And a nod up here for Rash. Meanwhile, WaVeDasH going for the slightly forward racks here. Sending out the Grens early. He wants to try and get vision, see what's going on. I expect the same coming out of Rash. He's opted for 1, 2, 3. 3 minigunners. Well, 4 minigunners and 4 flamers. He's keeping these guys back in the base for anti-scouting. Meanwhile, we only see a handful of Grens coming out from WaVeDasH. Let's see the scouting is well underway. Looks like he might slip past here. No, he's gonna get caught. We're seeing the Grens coming here on the left and right hand flanks. The right one's gonna get by okay, left one's getting sniped. And we see after 3 ref here, Rash opting to go into the Apache. Whereas WaVeDasH here has gone straight 3 ref. It looks like he's going to opt to go for a War Factory now as well. Both players being pretty quick off the draw with that, and we are seeing a slightly stuck Harvester. I'll keep an eye on the pathing here because it tends to bug out very frequently. We're seeing Rash go out into 4 ref on the main field here. A little bit unusual for nod players. They tend to go 3 ref and then crawl towards this way with their airstrip to get the other 2 ref set up. Keeps the fields here going for longer, or here I should say. But we see the Apache coming into action. Rash really needs to make his money's worth of that. Not quite sure he's paid off for it just yet. Throughout the course of the game, he looks like he will. But we are also seeing the War Factory go down, and Rash does not have vision of this. Now, he may be keeping an eye and being able to tell that it's been a while since the structure's been placed down here. And maybe able to interpret that it's going to be a War Factory, but we'll see. And it looks like a single Humvee's coming out. 2 Humvees, okay. Looks like Wave is going to be going a little bit heavy on the Humvee play. Very unusual for GDI in this matchup. Again, primarily Humvees versus buggies. From a pure statistical point of view, the buggies are just better cost effectively. So if it's a straight up buggy versus Humvee fight, buggy should win every time. But it does of course depend on numbers, positioning, and of course micro. So we see the Humvees coming up here doing a little bit of early aggressive damage. Looks like Rash has opted to go straight for the bikes. And we see the 4th ref here from WaVeDasH as well. Yeah, so Rash has got the 4 ref, has a strip, he's going to go over here, he's getting his 5th ref. A bit far from the tib. I'd say you'd want that at least one more silo over, but we'll see how it plays out. And here comes a couple more Humvees. Be interested to see what the GDI player here does, whether or not they opt to continue the crawl to the right, or if they opt to change and go over towards the left. And it looks like he has actually crawled all the way to the left. Very unusual for GDI players to try a macro on this map. Primarily just due to the fact that your base is so widespread and open, the opponent can easily just snipe your stuff. So we see a single medium tank mixed in here along with the Humvees. Trying to lure the nod player a little bit out of positioning and picking off the units to get caught. This is nice. It's going to pick off at least one buggy. It's lost a lot of Grens though in exchange for that. Not really a great trade, but he is getting on top of his base, putting some pressure on him. So both players now to 6 refs. So we've got 2 refs here for Rash and 2 refs here from Wave. Now I'd say these are pretty nice refs, nice and snug against the tib. You can see Rash is trying to continue to make use of his Apache. Not sure. Refineries are an interesting choice to target, depending on his vision. You might be better off going for a power plant. Refineries do provide some power, so when you damage them, the opponent does lose a little bit of power, but the power plants are more effective in terms of like a cheap target to use your Apaches on. We're actually seeing 3 refineries coming out here from WaVeDasH. This is super greedy on this map. So he's up to 7 ref now versus Rash's 6. And I would argue it may even be considered 5.5 just due to the long distance mining nature of that ref. And we see the crawl is continuing up along the left hand side. Rash wanting to cut it out, is placing his units into a good position here. Doesn't need to actually use them though, half of these aren't firing. We're just seeing some Grens coming up here doing a little bit of damage, so he's busy microing his Harv to squash those. He does also have a turret down, interesting. So he's got his 2 strips. Meanwhile, WaVeDasH here, still on 1 War Factory. So at this point, Rash is going to be able to produce infantry much faster, but Wave technically has the better eco. Both players still have their Conyard. No one's gone all in just yet. The War Factory down here is still safe. Rash hasn't scouted it yet. I'm surprised he hasn't tried to snipe it. Instead, he's often trying to get the Harps. Meanwhile, here we've got Rash going for some engagement in the middle. A nice little squad of Grens here over on the left unsupervised. We can see Rash here trying to make an impact on the eco, but it's not working out. Meanwhile, WaVeDasH coming in hot with the Grens. He actually might get this. I reckon the Harv will pop out before he gets it, but no, he's been spotted. Bringing the Apache back to help deal with it. This is going to free WaVeDasH up a little bit, give him some time. He's now up to 2 War Factories on a 7 ref versus the 2 strip 6 ref up here. Now you can start to see where this is this delay in terms of WaVeDasH getting the 2nd War Factory has yielded in Rash having a lot more units in the field. But it's about how they use them that's important, and we can see the defensive turrets going down from Rash, so he's expecting an engagement here, but we'll see if it actually plays out. Got to be careful with the pathing. Looks like he might be splitting off some of his bikes to go behind the medium tanks. A lot of these units are sitting idle though. We'd like to see these maybe split, a few of them over here doing some damage. See the Apache coming in, may as well use it while he has it. We have a single Gren here. It might actually be a hero Gren if he gets that rep. We see Rash's force now moving over to the left to meet up with Wave's main force. Starts to become quite scary once you get like 4 or 5 medium tanks surrounded by a lot of infantry. But in terms of the sheer size of the armies, like, it looks slightly in Rash's favor, but it all depends on how he puts these units to use. Especially because the majority of this is bullies. There's about 4 bikes mixed in here, which would be very useful against the tanks, but like the bullies will be almost redundant trying to deal with that. You can see this Gren is just kind of standing still now. Okay, we're going to have some back and forth here in the middle. It's pretty tight. I would say Rash might take this. And he's going to. Okay, Rash is on top now. We do see a little Gren swarm here. He might try going for the ref again. We're 2 turrets down. And yeah, Rash has seen it. He's sending over the Apache. Doesn't have vision of them quite yet, but there he goes. He's going to be able to take him down. And as you can see, the impact of having the 3 ref here, he lost one of them, but having the 3 ref here is mined this out significantly faster than the 2 ref here. And if you look at the starting positioning, so these 4 refs are starting to mine this out, similar to Rash up here. Rash now opting to keep his units in the center of the map. WaVeDasH has a scary number of tanks at the moment and has sold his Conyard, and we're seeing something similar from Rash. So if we go back just a little bit to see when Rash actually opted to sell this, so we missed that. So it's around this engagement when he was right on top of him, on the 7-minute mark. Keep an eye out. He's winning this engagement. Both players are fairly broken. There's no way for them to know if the other player is going back. He got some more static defenses up, so he now has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 turrets. And at that point, he decided he may not be constructing anything else and sold it, which makes sense from a economical point of view, because if you're not using anything, you should sell it. And then shortly after that point, we can see WaVeDasH is opted to sell and go all in to try and keep up with the production of Rash. Because if he doesn't, like, Rash is now 4k ahead. Like, it's a huge amount. So Wave really needs to optimize the units here and just send them out and hope for the best. Nice little Wave Grens here on the left hand side. Might get the refinery yet, and we can see that the Harves here are bugging out a little bit, so you got to be careful and keep an eye on that. See a little engagement here. Rash opting to go for the Harves in the refs, so on the right hand side. Meanwhile, we're seeing quite similar here from Wave on the left hand side. Opting to go for the turrets first. This is going to be the important engagement. Rash could have opted to go in here to get one, if not both war factories. Decided not to. Depending on his match awareness, he may figure that it's not worth necessarily taking it out because he has low income. But here we have Rash sending his units over towards the left hand side, going for the valuable Tiberium. Meanwhile, Wave is going right down the right hand flank. Okay, so he's managed to pick off the Harves here. There's still one left. He's now pulling all of his units back before GDI is right on top of his face. Okay. You see they're going for the turrets. They're going to get these fairly handily, but this is a lot of units. There's a lot of bikes mixed in here now. This is over what, 60% bikes. So it's going to be able to tear through these tanks pretty quickly, especially because of this map. Having all this open space is a nightmare for GDI, because the bikes can just shoot at them from all directions, and the turrets have to re-aim for each shot. Also see the Harves stuck down here in the middle too. Always a pain in the ass trying to keep on top of Mike when you're Harves, but it looks at this point that Rash is going to take it. Yeah, GG is interesting. The timing of the cell was a pretty big deal. I think it gave Rash enough of an edge in terms of overcoming Dash's unit count. Also, having the 3 rafts on this field, I'm not so sure it's super optimal. It's worth trying out, but I think Rash has the better idea of going 2 raf here. I also think that the positioning of these rafts should be over a little bit, but it kind of depends on how comfortable you are with your silo crawls, and always of course keeping an eye on your harvesters, especially when they end up in the late game on Tournament Desert, because you end up with this grey tib that forms at the Tiberium trees. You'll see it on both sides, and what tends to happen is your harvesters will keep going around that and taking a lifetime to fill up. So quite often it's worthwhile at a certain point when these are all down on grey to take your harvesters and just go to the remaining tib on the map and send them that way. Otherwise they'll just end up in limbo forever. But yeah, GG's. Well played both players, and nicely done, Rash.